Buy Black for Life. Buy Black for Life. Welcome.
Uh-huh.
Welcome. It's been a while. Buy Black for Life.
My
Um,
dang thing.
I'm gonna let the music
Cut the
play.
noose.
Robbie Suave.
Say my name and respect.
Oh, what happened, Robbie? What did I do? I hit something that messed it up. I will stop it right here. Stop the music right here. But welcome, Buy Black for Life family. It's been a while since I've been on, so it's so good to be back. And today is a conversation that I'm looking forward to having with someone who I respect, someone who is out here doing the work. And let me just start by reading this brother's bio. Um, this brother was voted one of the top 10 up and coming African American leaders in the United States by Mrs. Coretta Scott King of the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change. He's a motivational speaker. Curtis Pitts is an award-winning community activist, keynote speaker, and philanthropist. Mr. Curtis earned his bachelor's degree in general studies with minors in political science and criminal justice from Fort Hays State University,
Go
and he
type.
studied at the prestigious Scholars Institute at the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, Georgia. He currently serves as the president and CEO for the International Institute to Improve Race Relations, in addition to working as an independent lobbyist. Curtis has spoken at over 900 national, regional, and state conferences, and he has received numerous awards. His 4 decades of activism and race relations expertise make him the perfect fit for your next community event. Buy Black for Life, I welcome Brother Curtis Pitts. Curtis,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
So
you.
glad to have you here. Welcome. Um,
I'm honored.
it's been more than a year since you and I actually connected via this platform, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
get into that how that connection happened a little bit later. But welcome. Any words beside what I just shared that you would like to add?
I'm a proud father. I'm the ninth of 10 children from Sarasota, Florida. I'm truly blessed that, it's just been a whirlwind experience. Mrs. King introduced me to some amazing things that allowed me to be in some rooms with some amazing people. Growing up in that church environment and that Southern Afro-Caribbean environment in South Florida,
Right.
we're such a tight-knit community and tight-knit family. It's just truly a blessing that they gave us so much energy and self-esteem that we knew how to fight. And not just take a fight, and do it the right way in a positive way, but we also learn how to take a beat down and come back still with love and understanding and compassion. So,
Right. I love that. And Curtis, I'm gonna jump right in, and I always do icebreakers. So my first question to you is going to be, who inspired Curtis Pitts to be a community activist? Who got you into this work? Who did you see, hear, or were around that made you want to be what it is that you are today?
well, my parents, I was blessed, grew up in that two, parent household. It was 10 of us in that house, and my parents. And yet there was always somebody coming to our house to eat or stay, when there was hard times. And I remember when, they came in and told us that they were going to eminent domain our house and that my daddy had to act like, he didn't live there because they were going to force us into the projects. And most people don't realize that African Americans were forced into the projects because they eminent domain and sold their property and declared them unsafe living dwellings. But we were fortunate that my daddy had a construction company and I had 5 older brothers. And everybody thinks I'm a workaholic, but actually I'm the laziest one of the 10. I'm the best looking. They're all smarter than I am and harder workers. But I saw what was happening, how so many of my friends were in our neighborhood one day, and then the next they were in the projects, and family structure started to break down. So I knew then that what was happening to us, I just happened to be in the front room. When we come from those backgrounds, you don't go in the front room unless you've done something wrong, you're gonna get a whooping, or it's gonna be a gathering with, outside important people. But when I saw that and I listened to that, I knew then, that we have to make some changes in our lives, otherwise we become extinct as a family and as a people.
Right. Thank you for that. I love that. Curtis, share with us the work that you do with the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned one organization. That's just one.
Yes.
There's so much more to who you are as a motivational speaker and a community activist. Share with those who are watching what it is that you do in your work in the community.
Well, most people don't realize that I've been in Topeka for a long time, but I came to Topeka from Atlanta. I left the King Center to come to Topeka to get married, finish school and go back to Atlanta to work at the King Center. But when I got to Topeka, I was in so much awe of how historically and civil rights relevant this place was. I knew that in the essence, the heart of the civil rights movement was actually in Topeka.
Right.
And I got here and I started studying because I'm a history fanatic. I watched how the abolitionists came from back east and they moved to Kansas and said that we're going to die because if we keep enslaving God's people, that, we can never get to heaven. So they started the Civil War here in Kansas with John Brown, the bleeding Kansas, the free state. And I was going, wow, this is amazing. This is something that we all have to be aware of and pay attention to. And the other thing that amazed me was you had the Brown versus the Board of Education, case here. When I got here and I was moving through the community coming from the South, we either worked construction, cleaned homes, worked in the fields, being migrant workers. But I saw the education level here. I saw so many opportunities. The Azusa Street Ministry here, where most of the holiness movement started right here in Topeka, Kansas. You see so many things, happening here that was amazing. As I'm learning later on, Gordon Parks was here, George Washington Carver went to school in Kansas. And I'm going, for whatever reason, this place plays a pivotal role in the movement and the change for our people. And when I got into a position where I could actually get to the table some years ago, I said, we don't have what we need as leadership in Topeka. So I'm going to take some time and I'm going to grow that leadership. And so once 15 years ago, that leadership started to manifest itself, I started deciding that I'm going to start moving more on the national level and on the national scene. People knew who I was. And when you tell them that I was at the King Center, I lived beside Mrs. King, I was a national youth coordinator, because they always saw me as a guy working in the field with the highest risk kids. I gang prevention, and it was essential because most people don't understand that the way I did gang prevention was at the grassroots level, where we educated the community and gave the young men some positive options, because and I know that 90s was probably the most overwhelmingly, and I hate to say it scripturally, demonic time that African Americans have almost faced since slavery, because the music changed, the values changed, and and I'm gonna say something that dates me a little bit. In 1981, 5,000 student leaders met in Madison, Wisconsin at the United States Student Association. Most of the people you'll see that's in leadership roles in various sections of our community across the country, they were there. And, we talked and we met, and it was crazy because people then thought we would have a Black Student Alliance at that national conference, but it was actually the National Third World Student Coalition, because not everybody that was Black was from the United States. And, coming from that I-95, 75 corridor, and I know, coming from New York and Florida, there is a diverse population. And I always laugh, and I'm proud. They said, man, we had our first Black president, but, you have my friends that are Bohemian, that are from Haiti and the other islands, that have already had a Black president for so many years. And I said, how do we get a connection? What's going on the continent of Africa? Like when you went, I watched like almost every second of your trip to Africa, because I wanted our people to know that if we get a link there and create a relationship, and that's the one thing I love about African Americans and Black Americans, is that if we get a chance to lead, we bring everybody to the table.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the God in us. And I used to watch the brothers back in the day. So what's the science of the day? What's the math of the day, brother? And the brothers in the first, and I grew up primitive Baptist. So, we was them foot washing Baptists. We were strictly scripturally, raised, but there was so much about our culture and so much about Topeka that some people don't understand. One of the first things they culturally appropriated was the scriptures in reference to us. And so God, in my opinion, created us all. We're all one family. And, we just have to decide to live that way. Black, white, Native American, Latino X, Latinx. We're all one family, Asian Americans, Asians around the world. But the thing that makes us different is that we recognize that in us, and that's the God in us. And I just want to make sure that our kids get a better concept of themselves and not think that our history started at slavery and that we're an expendable commodity. And I'll end it with this part, Jerome, is that Black folks are like the betas and the VCRs right now. If we don't prepare ourselves to be competitive and be essential in this society, this capitalistic society will discard you. And that's what's happening. Got back to the point where we were vital, because when they got agriculture going and they got those mechanized machines, as they say, the molders, they got mechanized, they didn't need us anymore. But there was a time that we were able to do everything for ourselves, even when we couldn't vote. And that's motivates me.
Thank you for that. And I will share a bit of a story how you and I actually connected on Buy Black for Life. It was definitely more than a year ago. You had something you were doing in Topeka, and you wanted to put that on the platform. And at that time, if anyone is watching and you're new to Buy Black for Life, it was $25 if you had an event. It doesn't break your bank, but you, Curtis, immediately you were like, "Here's the 25. Let's put it out here." And I started reading what it was that you were putting there, and immediately I said, "Let me hit this brother back." And I said, "I'm sending you back your $25."
Like what?
To be involved in this. And we've been together and working together on so many things that we're going to share down the line. We've been working together with community work ever since, and I'm taking that as a blessing. And one of the things you mentioned is about the Brown versus Topeka, Kansas decision. We had an amazing roundtable conversation on the anniversary of that decision. And that was, for me, like, it didn't dawn upon me until I started doing the research. And I'm like, wait a minute, Jerome, do you realize what you're stepping into? And I want to thank you for that. It was certainly an honor for me to be a part of that. So I want to thank you for including me on that. And Curtis, one of the things you share, and you're unapologetic, even in our meetings, and I'm saying our meetings because we have something coming up, and that's the Moses Project. And I shared a link here, but if you can, for those who are watching, can you tell us a little bit about what your vision is for the Moses Project?
Well, as I was studying, over the years before they call it the high school to prison pipeline, I was studying that so many labels were being placed upon African American men. Then they started placing them upon African American women, or Black women and Black men. And I started saying to myself, well, why are these brothers, not realizing that's par for the course, that's acceptable, that's the norm? Then it hit me. I said, if people don't pay attention, if Moses was alive right now, he would be a felon. And he would get labeled. He'd get pushed. He'd have to disappear. So many brothers are getting sent off to prison into areas that they don't want to be in, the group home, foster care. And God had to send him to the backside of the desert so that he could prepare him to come back home to free his people. And so it's not a natural rite of passage for us to go to prison, but there is a struggle. So every time society tries to put that label on us, you got to think about Moses. Most of these great prophets in the Bible would be felons right now. And God had to use that redemptive power of his that aggression, that machismo, that manhood, he had to redirect that so that he knew how to tell us how to use that for the good of our people. And most people don't pay attention to how God had to do things. We had gotten so comfortable under the leadership of Egypt that God knew that we would stay there because it was comfortable, even though it was slavery, it was hard, it was horrible conditions.
Yeah.
So when Moses, that felon, came back from prison, from that sojourn, he had to come and he had to talk to Pharaoh, which was his brother. And people don't pay attention that Pharaoh loved Moses, and that's really all he had. God knew that Pharaoh would probably let Moses rule the Israelites right there in Egypt. So remember in the scripture, God said, I had to harden his heart. He had to harden Pharaoh's heart.
And boy, did he.
And everything that he tried to curse, his people, God's chosen people with, it came right back to Pharaoh. That's why Moses was like, no, don't say it. But in our society right now, they want us to discard brothers. We want to leave brothers behind. And there's so many of them that have been, pushed out of place. When I used to have to go to Detroit in the summertime, and I watched now when I went back to go to school, I went back to visit. I saw so many brothers, that natural instinct for young men to want to be a part of something greater than themselves. And with our young men right now, they're trying to find it. In the old days, we wanted to go to college, we wanted to be Kappas, Omegas, Sigmas, Alphas, we wanted to be Masons. But now they introduced the Crips, Bloods, Vice Lords, and Disciples. Yeah. And all of those entities were just designed to help us. But because we didn't have the relationship that talented tenth was supposed to bring back to us, the lines became blurred and renegade. Brothers are looking for love and manhood and partnerships and a family. But this Moses Project is designed to bring Black men and Black women back to their natural role as leaders and community builders. We're not destroyers. We're not destructive. We're not haters. We're not chauvinistic. We are lovers of God and lovers of each other. We have a natural relationship with agriculture. We were the farmers. Most people forget that most Native Americans, as beautiful as they were nomads. They moved from place to place. Right. But if you study history, the agriculture, the farming, the Egyptian mystic system, irrigation, math, and science, we were metaphysics experts long before anybody else was. So those things need to be brought to the table and say, how can we manifest this to our people? Moses would be a felon, but God didn't let him off the hook, and he did not allow him not to be responsible for his community. So we can build for ourselves. We can take seeds and grow food and go do urban farming. We can take a pack of seeds and do aesthetics and clean up a neighborhood and grow food. Jerome, this is the craziest thing, and I'll be quiet with this one. Once I started going to these educational programs that talk about urban farming and farming, I started losing weight as soon as I found out that there was no fruit and fruit roll-ups.
I love it. And if COVID taught us anything, mm-hmm. It taught us about the need to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
With food, with growing our own food, because there are food deserts in our communities where mm-hmm. our people struggle to get. I'm not just saying food, but just quality food.
Yes.
And it's a shame, and I love the fact that I'm partnering with you on the Moses Project. That it means so much that we, I guess, in my way of thinking, that we change the narrative about who we are.
Yes.
As Black men and Black women. That we heal our relationship with each other.
Yes.
That we can be better for future generations going forward. So being someone that is part of the Moses Project, yes, part of what it is that you are doing and you are bringing to communities. And I want to be clear, it's not just communities here in the United States.
Yes.
It's communities, your vision from what we have talked about is not just here, it's throughout the world. Talk about that.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to get people to understand. And the people are like, well, Curtis, why aren't you recruiting and why aren't you trying to get this out to the media here locally? I said, because the project I'm doing is really a classroom for the world. And they said, well, why did you build this stage right here in the hub, this amphitheater, this outdoor movie theater? I said, because we have to show people that we can do it for ourselves. And I said that I'm going to go broke showing that I can help myself and help my community and then invite others in. And I'm excited to say that, you know, when I'm out doing stuff, I'll be sitting out in the field with the kids and somebody stop. I say, here, we want to bring you guys some money to help. I'm talking about white, black, Latino, Native American. Everybody wants to be a part of self-help and becoming change agents.
Right.
And so everything I'm doing in Topeka, and I'm going to say one thing about it. New York has some of the most amazing urban farms, rooftop farms, but we also have areas where we haven't taught our kids to be self-sustainable. We don't have those relationships where we're in the classroom anymore and we're talking about it. You know, in the old days, and I'm going to say something that's going to throw everybody off, I was in that first generation that never went to a segregated school. My brothers and sisters that went to the segregated school, to the all-black school, academically, they were 4 years ahead of us.
Wow.
Because when we got to the integrated schools, they didn't know what to do with us. So they just warehoused us.
Right.
They put so many of us in special ed that we almost never got out.
Yes.
And so what we're saying is that when we're in those segregated schools, I'm not saying that we have to segregate. I am saying that we have to bring our culture. When Dr. King talked about integrating the school system, he was talking about bringing our values, our culture, our understanding of God, because in reality, blacks and whites basically had the same system, except for in our schools were an extension of our families. The teacher lived down the street. The principal also was the deacon at the church. So you couldn't get away from the expectations. If you look at, we were dirt poor, but we still had on collars and dresses. Our shoes were shine. And
Yes,
you don't know, they'll stop you. Like the sister stopped me one time walking down the street. She said, come here. I said, no, ma'am, I didn't do anything. She said, come here, here's a comb your hair. Don't you go another step. Because every time you leave your house, you represent our community, our church, your family. And so our value system has been skewed. Remember in the old days, you know, you had KRS-One, you know, you had X-Clan, you had Public Enemy, you know, was the Poor Righteous Teachers. That knowledge base, and I have to give it to New York, they was bringing it, you know, and everybody else in the world. And like I said, we have this, people don't understand that partnership when everybody was talking about Zulu Nation, you know, about all these crews, stick-up crews and hood gangs. How do we get together and mesh it together? You know, even back then in the 80s and the late 70s, we understood the need. Why? But then they shot us off in the different directions and they taught us to be different. They gave us so many different labels. But I say to you again, and I'll stop here, is that the Moses Project and what I do in Topeka is a laboratory and a teaching platform for the world. And seldom do I get grant money. Seldom do I ask for grant money. I'll call my friends up like, hey man, I need $50. Hey man, I'm about to feed the kids. Hey, I need some wood. The wood company said, Curtis, every piece of wood you need, you know, you can come by and get it. And they did that, and we were able to build stages. Now we're in the renovation part. Listen, some felons that got out of prison, done 15 to 16 years. Okay. One of the pastors in one of the construction companies, all three of them had remodeling and concrete companies. These felons got their stuff together, came back, because I remember the guys, because I had to take shotguns from them trying to kill each other in the 90s. They came back and said, Curtis, I remember you saved my life.
Wow.
Because I could have either been dead or I could have never gotten out of prison.
Wow.
You know what them brothers did? They built a full basketball court for the kids and the Moses Project site. And people don't understand is those guys that you thought it was called hop to it, you know, concrete and remodeling, love remodeling and concrete, you know. Another one was, I got to think of Reverend Kurtendall. They all own construction companies, cement companies. And this group got together along with Mr. Bullock, who was building houses in the impoverished neighborhood through Stardust, and say, here's some property, Curtis, we know what you're going to do. And they keep dropping things off. And I'm trying to get our people to say, don't run from where you came from. Because sometimes it's gentrification, but then there's sometimes we abandon things.
Yes.
And I tell people it's not money sometimes we want to leave our children. It's an inheritance of knowledge, a relationship with God. And like you guys are teaching me about financial literacy, economic empowerment, you know, and I say that again, like you guys are teaching me about financial literacy, economic empowerment, those things that we're going to give away at that conference and share with people on how they can help their community. They need to make it to Dallas because they're going to hear from yourself, Dr. Tyra Jones, Bishop Slater, brother Bishop, Dr. Jones. You know what I'm saying? You're going to hear from some powerful people that can really move some things. And there's other speakers coming in from Denver, from California, Missouri, and we're going to talk about our needs as a people, what we have and resources we have right now to help ourselves.
So as usual, you jump ahead of me, Curtis.
I apologize.
This is what Curtis does when we're on meetings. He listen. More importantly, I love the passion. Like, because I mean, in order to do the work that we do, you have to be passionate about the work that we do. Um, and it's so vital. And I just wanted to hit a few points before I get into the national conference, because that's about to be fire. We have one of our guests who are watching. Healing amongst our people is necessary. I wholeheartedly agree, and it's what I know Curtis is doing. It's what I do in Buy Black for Life. It's how I built the platform that I did. That it's more about corroboration as opposed to competition. I'm in no competition with anyone. It's just not what I do. I will collab with anybody. If someone has something that I think is going to benefit our community, they know to hit me up. Curtis is an example of that. And then, another person said national and then global. So, how do you feel about that? And that'll probably lead us into the national conference we have coming up in Dallas, Texas at the end of September. How do you feel about a national platform that we can eventually make into a global platform?
Yes. The thing that is key to that is that whenever we go places and we see things as individuals, that's what I love about your platform. You bring everybody with you, because you could have went to Africa and just enjoyed yourself, but you were filming and sharing and showing, products that they have, environments and opportunities that they have. When I study places like Ethiopia that have a great emerging tech industry, and I hate when people think that our countries are just like they're out in the middle of nowhere and they're wearing grass skirts. I don't have a problem with that either. That's beautiful, but we have every technology. Everything that we need is right there in Africa, and
right on that continent. Yes, sir.
That's right. And I say a Kabbalah, I say Africa, I say Ethiopia. Kabbalah is a biblical name for our continent. But I say this thing to everyone, that our economic buying power is so great. Everybody in the world knows that to win and lead the world, you have to have control of Africa. We're the only people that haven't forgotten that. We need to have those relationships. I see some countries are offering dual citizenship. I'm a proud American. I love our country, but I also love my friends who are Italian, Irish, German, Lithuanian. I love it because they have a relationship with their country. We need to build that relationship with our children, because they won't be so spiritually and mentally beat down if they understand that we have a history long before slavery.
Right.
And our people are thriving. They're competitive. And when you go to most of the universities, you see some of the most brilliant people come from our homeland, whether it be science, math, economics, any cutting edge science, we are right there participating. So we have to make this thing global. We have to make it a partnership. We have to have an international conference in the homeland. We have to have an international conference next year where we're bringing in dignitaries from around the world and say, come, let us share how we can develop those resources. Right. There's going to be a session here where we're inviting people from other countries that don't look like us too. But we got to make this thing international and global, because economics, competition, knowledge is global. We live in a global market. It's a competitive global market. It ain't Kansas, New York, Florida anymore. It's whatever continent you own. How can you compete to generate dollars to take care of the neighborhood you live in?
I love that, Curtis. And, one of the things that I am unapologetic about talking about during my trip to Africa is the fact that, and this is a personal thing, and I if someone feels differently. Okay, but this was a personal thing for me that I said to myself, how could I have called myself an African American if I've never been to Africa?
Well
And,
said.
and then I got there.
Hmm.
And when I got there, I remember my wife and I and family and friends, we visited a tribe. And during our visit there, um, I was humbled by how the people lived
Hmm.
and the basic necessities that you and I, and
Hmm.
every American for that matter, take for granted wasn't a big deal for them.
Hmm.
They were, they were okay with living the way that they were living. And it was about community. For example, whatever
Yes.
money came into the community, it benefited everyone in that village, not just one. And
Beautiful.
if there was a high achiever in the young people within that village, the entire community supported that young person to go wherever they needed to go to
Mhm.
study and to achieve at a university so that they can at some point support that community. And I know that's what I envision for Buy Black for Life.
Yes.
And I definitely know that's what you envision
Yes.
with the Moses Project and what it is that you're doing.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
And, I want to get into the national conference because I don't think people are ready. like, um, I, you know, I try not to brag, but when I show up ready.
yes, sir.
And, my conversation with, and I cannot wait for her and I to share a stage. We're going to share this platform as well as we
Yes.
continue to promote the national conference that we're having. Um, I hope y'all are ready, and I hope everyone that attends understands that take that opportunity when we're present
Yes.
to allow us to pour into you, allow us to drop some knowledge and leave you with some resources for you to prosper and grow. I
Hmm.
am unapologetic about financial literacy and economic empowerment. If we continue to support um, luxury brands that do not invest in our communities,
Absolutely.
we are and I said this on my social media. It is
Hmm.
a false sense of luxury. It's a false sense of wealth and rich, and we have to get out of that mindset. But tell us about what that conference, your vision, Curtis, because I know what mine and Dr.
Yes.
Tyra's vision is. What's your vision for this conference that's coming up, and share with those who are watching when the conference is going to take place, please.
Well, first, I want to say this is what gets me so excited. You know, people don't understand that if I call people around the country, they're going to show and they're going to participate. Speakers, educators, trainers. But they also were shocked when I said, teach me as well as you're teaching others. And when you and Dr. Tara Jones and Bishop, Sadat Jones out of St. Louis and Bishop Slater, when I said, I didn't know that, teach me that. I said, I'm going to rally the people, but you're going to have to educate them. This conference is designed to be a working conference for our people. Bring your pencils and your papers. We're going to even have food so you can go grab food and come back and sit down and listen and share. Because for the first time in a long time, we're going to talk about our needs, our goals, and what our people have to do to become agents of change when they go back home.
Yes,
When you
sir.
start teaching me and Dr. Tyra started teaching me about financial literacy and economic empowerment, because I was still using the term economic development.
Right.
Okay. and then you guys were
Kept
Curtis.
saying economic empowerment, Curtis.
And y'all had to, you guys would light me up. I'm like, well, teach me. And then I remember coming to Kansas and coming to college and coming because my parents took everything they could to get me that bus ticket, them and my brothers, to get me here. That meant that the power might have to be off and I was hurt. I didn't want to come to Kansas, but I knew when we were kids and we had those church conferences, at the church conference, we bought fish sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, chicken dinners. We bought even pork chop sandwiches. We had grits and eggs in the morning. Everything we needed for that conference, we bought at the church and the money stayed in the church.
Yes, sir.
In the community. So when we went to Dallas and we started expanding, we could have used a humongous hotel, but then we would be counterfeit or bootleg. So we found a large church right near where they're having the black college football game called the State Fair Classic. And we're going to have this conference right there. And we're going to train people. We're going to share ideas. And so when you go to the website and you see the Moses Project, the one thing we wanted to make sure that we didn't do, we didn't want you to leave that conference just feeling good. We want you to be filled with knowledge and empowerment. We want you to be able to go back home and give your family, the children in your community, an inheritance of knowledge, something they can't take from you. And so when I talk to you, our leaders and our executive board, and I'm listening to the people who were in the conference last year who are all going to come to Dallas this year, that's September 29th, 30th, and October 1st is when we have the National Business, Jobs, and Health Fair. We're going to talk about the needs of our community. I've been in meetings and people have saying, what does the African American or the Black community need and how can we help? They start talking about this and they try to redirect us. For this conference, we're going to talk about our values, our history, our needs for the future, and we're welcoming everyone. This isn't an event where we're saying, well, we don't want white America there. Eventually that dialogue has to happen because
it has to happen. Yes, sir. It has
to. Liberty and justice for all. We
yes,
have
sir.
to have those positive dialogues. But at this time, we're going to talk about what we need, what is going on with the education system, what is going on with our African American males. Why are the females feeling as they are? Why are they being neglected? What is it that we need to do to rebuild and restore our families? As a single father, I got a good understanding of what single moms have to go through. And brothers, I have the utmost respect. I lived in the house with a mama and a daddy. I could be intellectual in my mother and my father, but my mama and daddy worked every day. Everybody in our neighborhood worked. We were a village. And my grandma babysitters. So our values, like they used to do in our motherland, they used to tell us stories around the fire, or they'd be talking to us and we had to be quiet and listen because we couldn't get into grown folks' business. But at this conference, you need to have your boss be there so you can be a legitimate change agent for our community. We're not excluding anymore, but we're going to talk about how we can be positive change agents, financial, faith, education, community development. How can we be able to be fishermen and fisherwomen as our ancestors were when we couldn't even vote? They were building Black Wall Street. They were building education systems. They were building colleges. We have to get on track so that this conference is going to help us give an inheritance that's relevant to change now and for the next generation. You don't want to miss this. I'm going there to learn. I can't wait to hear from some of these speakers.
And one piece that you touched on a little bit was health. Like,
yes.
I mean, and it's interesting that at some point that came up for Dr. Tyra and I in our conversations as we prep for our role, health,
yes.
and not just physical health,
yes.
but also mental health. And I will be 100%. I am intentional about my mental health.
Yes.
I am unapologetic in saying that I did struggle with mental health, that I did see a therapist, and that I have a therapist on speed dial in case I'm feeling things out of normal. Now, as a Black man, that might be the abnormal for our people to hear.
Yes.
But when we start with healing within our communities, it starts by saying, no, I'm not okay.
That's right.
And yes, I do need to speak to someone. I have some things that are behind me and that are in here, that I need to fix
Mm-hmm.
before I could go out here and be all that I need to be. And
Yeah.
that will be part of our uh,
Major part.
conference because we are a community just like every other community. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, at some point, we do have to have that conversation with other
Yeah.
communities, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. One
If
of the things.
we are like every other community, we have to be intentional about spiritual health, mental health, and
Yes.
physical health.
Absolutely.
And if you have any more you want to say on that, Curtis, please feel free. But you know how passionate I am about that, sir.
That was one of the things that brought it to the light because many of the and I used to learn when I was in college that many of the cognitive thinkers, that they came from, Europe and Germany in particular. But as I started meeting and interacting with Black, what I call therapists, and psychologists and sociologists, they introduced me to beyond and before that and how mental health was such a powerful thing for us historically. And at this conference, one of the things I want to tell people is that my daddy taught me a powerful lesson about being the head of the house
Yes,
and
sir.
how him and my mom had a relationship and an understanding and how they worked and negotiated, deals and did what was best for the family. But they also had to have somebody to talk to. Just because we get mental health assistance does not mean that we're neglecting God or God isn't in us.
Amen. Amen.
Because the root of mental health is you got to have a good relationship with God and you got to have good mental health to survive in this earthly plane because
Yes,
He
sir.
created Christ from this earth. We're so in tune with nature and with this earth. So some things have to be dealt with on this earthly plane. So we have to talk to people, but we also have to have people come to this conference. If you're a provider in our community, your program, your state, your job should be sending you so that you're better prepared to understand and deal with the culture where this post-traumatic stress syndrome is coming from. Because when our country sends people across the world, if their military deploys you in any country or the State Department deploys you as a diplomat, they teach you about the culture, value, and mores of where you're going. So you won't disrespect anyone. So when you're coming and deal with the cognitive, emotional, mental, and spiritual state of our children, you need to come to this conference and understand where is the heart and soul of this coming from so that you're better able to provide the mental health needs that our children have. So that you were like, well, what happened? What went wrong? Because you were talking to Susie and Johnny about this, but in their community, that's taboo. So you're going to spend 5 years trying to get them to be understanding of that value when you can say, this is what's valuable to them.
Yes.
Empower that.
Yes.
Let's understand that. And the mental health is essential to the next stage of development in our community. Come there. Let's learn. Let's talk. It's a working conference.
Yes. And I have the website up, Curtis, where folks could go. It's right here. I will also add it to the chat where folks can go take a. It's going to be. It's
Mhm.
not just our conference as well. There is a football event. There's a concert I saw with Ashanti.
Yes, yes, uh-huh.
New
Yes,
York's own Long Island, New
right,
York's own
right.
Ashanti will
Mhm.
be performing. There is so much that'll be going on that entire week and weekend in Dallas, Texas. You are
Mhm.
going to want to be a part of it. And
Yes,
let me also say, because this is Buy Black for Life. If
yes,
you are in the Dallas area, surrounding area, there are also vending opportunities for you.
yes.
We want you, if you are in that area, we want you to come. We have opportunities for you, and you could
Mhm.
set up your business. You could sell your products and services to those who will be in attendance. We
Yes,
want you there. We want you to be a part of this.
yes,
And believe me, when even though you'll be there vending, you're going to be able to catch the smoke that we are going to light the fire with.
that's right.
Trust me when I tell you that. Some of you might shut down what you are doing
Mhm.
and, excuse me, want to take notes because what we have, excuse me, is going to prosper our
Yes,
people. We are planting seeds in Dallas, Texas, so that it not only spreads across this country, it spreads across this world, and it
Yes.
builds communities that are going to be, most importantly, and I love the word you always use, Curtis, sustainable
Thank.
family and communities.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love that. Because when you're a business owner, it's not just about starting the business, it's sustaining the business,
Mm-hmm.
prospering the business, and growing the business.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis, we're winding down, man. And this was like you and I, we've had conversations that we could go on forever. And I'm conscious of that. But one of the questions I always ask anyone I have conversations with, and this is the first of many conversations. I'm back. Um, I have a Buy Black for Life app that I'm so proud of, that I want our business owners, or if you, even if you're not a business owner, but you would like to be able to go into a Black owned business, please download the Buy Black for Life app. Um,
Awesome.
I'm next week. I am talking the person that built this app. Him and I are going to have a conversation. So I hope you'll be a part of that. But
Definitely.
Curtis, one of the questions I always ask everyone I have this conversation with: what does "buy black" mean to Curtis Pitts?
Buy black means sustainability. It means sovereignty. It means survivability. When we buy products that are, like they used to say, for us, by us,
Yes, sir.
welcome, then we create a revenue stream. Right now, we're just people that buy, and the money leaves our community immediately. What I've learned, this is what I've learned by Black for Life, and people don't understand. I'm a student as well, and if you ever attend the meeting I'm at, you'll find out quickly that I'll tell you, I just don't know. Teach me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what Buy Black for Life means, it means we're remembering that our spiritual, physical, mental wealth is also manifested in how we spend our dollars.
Yes, sir.
And I used to hear Malcolm and Martin talk about whatever we do, we need to move as a block and as a team, generating finances and revenue. And I love when people come from other countries and they move into our neighborhood, because if you go to every neighborhood right now, you see a Dollar General, a Dollar Tree, and you'll see a Family Dollar. And it's like, why are they building us? Because we have dollars in our community. But imagine if we went to the stores in our community that was owned by us and ran by us. And the reason that Black folks' unemployment is so high across this country, the businesses like we used to hire our own family.
Yes, sir.
Buy Black for Life teaches that and manifests that in our community. And I say this again, the Moses Project, Buy Black for Life, is going to tell you when you go home, there is a way that you can grow your business. And when you sent that money back to me, Jerome, I was like, wait a minute. I had never met you before. And you was like, wait a minute. Me and my wife were talking. I was like, no. You need to keep your money. And people are totally shocked across in Topeka in particular. Like, we thought you were just the guy with the kids in the field. I'm like, no, I do a whole lot. I just try to keep myself humble because I want to always be a student as well. And like I walk into a room, I know anywhere in the country, they're going to love me, hate me, fear, or respect me, but they know I'm going to get what our community needs. And the thing that I'm learning in this nation is that once we start rallying to help ourselves and inviting others, people from all over the country are going to say, they're not VCRs and betas anymore. We don't have to throw them away, because I can bet you right now, we can't find where all our VCR and beta are.
Yes.
Buy Black for Life is teaching us to buy black, turn that money over in the community, invest it in the lending institution and financial institution, because they treat you better. Two things I know: when daddy comes to school, they treat you better because mommy's going to make sure he goes and make sure his baby's all right.
Yes, sir.
And when we have money, my friend said, I sell my money. I said, what do you mean? He says, I move my money from bank to bank to bank, wherever I get the best interest rate. I said, for your loans? He goes, no, they want to use my money to make money.
Yes.
And they need me to use my money. And that's how we have to think. That's what I'm learning from you and Dr. Tyre. We have resources. Buy Black for Life is a platform that says not only are you valuable now, history has taught us that you can create and build for yourself and invite everybody, regardless of race, color, creed, religion. And we have something, not only our intellectual weight, our spiritual weight, but our financial weight is a monster on this planet. It's a monster.
Yes, sir. Curtis, I have a question from someone in the chat, and I do thank you all for any questions. And if you have questions, be unapologetic. Ask them. The question is, how can we motivate our people to get them involved in helping our community? And how can we ignite the fire within those who once cared and were willing to help?
One thing, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'll be glad to chime in on this one as well. Go ahead, brother.
One of the things that history has taught us to be skeptical sometimes. But if you take and teach them historically what we've done before, after, and during slavery, it'll make a kid sit up in the seat and say, that was me? You mean I'm standing on the shoulders of our ancestors that did this, even when they couldn't vote? And what happens is that that talented tenth have been divided into so many sections now. We don't come home like we used to. Those brothers that had to go to prison, we don't bring them home and we don't cut and slaughter the finest, largest calf and have a celebration and say, we have a job for you. You don't have to go back. We're going to stop this recidivism, this swinging door of incarceration. The community has to see us talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yes.
Everybody that I'm bringing to the table at this conference, I didn't bring people because they were speculative about what we should do. These are proven. It might not be on the biggest level, on the biggest scene, but where they're at, they're making it happen. And I learned 15, 20 years ago, if I stay in Topeka after Mrs. King had me in those rooms with Andrew Young and John Lewis and, Jesse Jackson and Congressman Fontroy and, Julian Bond, if you name them, Reverend James Orange, all of these, Mrs. Dorothy Cotton, all these powerful, Mrs. Rosa Parks, and I'm going, if I didn't get the connection then and understand that they had to meet in places that nobody else could go. Yeah. They had to go and do things and talk about things and hide and get that quiet, still place and build something and shoot it out to the community. We can talk and do things and say things now because of our ancestors' sacrifices.
Amen.
Now, that we're the leaders, we have to say we're not sacrificing, just in word anymore. We're going to build something. You take this pack of seeds and go home and you plant that garden in your neighborhood.
Amen.
Let's get back on that plant-based diet. And when the lady told me at the, it was called the PAW, Professional Agricultural Workers Conference in Montgomery, Alabama. We're right outside of Auburn, Alabama, in Tuskegee Institute. When the lady sat down, she said, almost everything that you have is agriculture, your clothing,
wow,
your food, your hair products. And Brother Jerome, this is how we have to change the thing because we're killing ourselves because we're not in contact with ourselves. When I went to the doctor, the brother said, well, Curtis, I don't want you to get the generic drug because that's synthetic. I want you to get that root-based drug, that same blood pressure medicine that you have to have. I want you to lose weight. And then since I met you, I've lost 99.57 pounds. And that's because I'm getting around people that's knowledgeable, not just economics. It's a giant thing. People are hungry for knowledge, but they're tired of talking. They're tired of going to conferences and conventions. And the major donors are saying, we're going to create the narrative for you. At this conference, at this church, right in the hood.
In the hood.
It's all about us helping us and inviting everybody and saying, we don't hate you, we love you, we're your brothers and sisters, but we want to do our part for our children, for our community, and you're welcome because every private school in the United States, they imitated the structure, the value, the discipline of the original Black segregated schools. They hold their kids accountable. We have forgotten. This conference, that by Black for Life, what you're doing, when you sent that money back to me, Jerome, you don't know. It was $25. I was going, whoa, wait a minute. wait a minute now. Whenever I see something, when I'm looking at something on your network and your platform, there's hundreds of thousands of people looking at that.
170,000.
And I'm going, wait a minute now. And then when I call, Atlanta, it's like, well, Curtis, what do you need us to do? I'm calling, Detroit. They're like, Curtis, what do you need us to do? I'm going, wait a minute. How do you know who I am? I said, Curtis, people watch what you do on Facebook all the time.
Sir.
And plus, Google you. I'm like, what?
Yes.
And so you inspired me, but I didn't know nothing about credit, until it was almost too late.
Right.
And about insurance and leaving an inheritance of that type. Right. My dad owned the business. We owned our own property. We owned our own land, our own home. So when they tried to force us into the projects, this buy black thing is like my mom and daddy. We had to create the wherewithal to keep our house so that we could keep our family.
Amen.
Buy black for life.
And I'm gonna tell you, because I right here on the platform, it doesn't tell us who the user is that asked the question, but I went on another platform and I know this user, a sister that I've known for years, love her. Thank you, Moretta, for being a part of this. I love you dearly. And if I could answer your question, how do we motivate other people in our community? The best way I have motivated people is just by putting my head down and doing my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put my head down and do my work, a lot of what I do, I try not to talk much about it on social media, because then it'll give the appearance of me doing it for all the wrong reasons, but be authentic in what it is that I do. And the energy with which I walk is what draws people to me, to motivate them. I once, as a member of the New York Urban League, heard a New York Urban League member say he's an urban leaguer even outside of the walls of where he is. You can inspire people just by the way that you are. One of the things that helped destroy the black community when they changed the drug laws is because now our young people did not see black men going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because they were in jail. My sister, as you move, how you move, you are inspiring others.
Yes.
You are an example in the community, is how you are inspiring others. I go into the barbershop, if I see a young man sagging, I'm unapologetic about telling him the origins of sagging. And the guys at the barbershop know that when that person walks in, they automatically let me know, because I'm going to deposit something into that person. So it's how you motivate people is how you move in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say something. Not everybody is built for this, right?
Yeah.
I recognize that. I know that. People, my own family members, some of my own family members, brothers and sisters, they're not built for this. My mother thought I should be the one. She tapped me on the shoulders, not my brothers, not my sister. So not everybody is built for this, but as you do your work, you'll see that you motivate others. And then that fire that you ignite in others, it's going to come.
Yes.
And understand something. Even if that other is just one, then you have done God's work. And be okay with that, because that what you deposit into that person is basically going to be your legacy carried on. And I'm blessed that I've deposited into so many. So my legacy and my lessons of what I've taught people, I've not only given it to my children, I've given it to so many others, that when I leave this life, it's going, my work, my lessons are going to carry on far beyond in people far beyond who I ever thought. So that's the way that you have to do it. None of us go into doing what we do with intentions of thinking I'm gonna change the world, right? We may have that mindset, but once you get into it, you realize how difficult that is. When you drop that stone into the water, you see the effects. What I'm
Hmm.
saying to you, my sister, is drop that stone in the water by who you are, and I know how dope and amazing you are,
And
and you'll see the effects. Um, but it starts with one, and that one should be you. I don't know if you want to add to that, Curtis. We're almost at the end, but that's just my feeling about it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And growing up in my neighborhood, when they tried to put us all in special ed, I went to this church called New Zion Primitive Baptist Church. And those ladies were insulted by the fact that after all those years of teaching us how to read and write at the church, prior to us getting there, how to be disciplined, how to lead meetings, Robert's Rules of Order. And we all had to do that Christmas and Easter speech. So we learned leadership skills at the church.
Yes, sir.
And there was an organization that I was proud to be a part of called Home and Chain. That was our neighborhood thing. That was the other family that you had to be a part of. And my daddy instilled a sense of manhood and responsibility, because I said, Daddy, why don't you have a job like everybody else? He said, there's no job in the world that pays a black man enough money to
Mm,
raise 10 children.
mm.
So I had to open and start my own business. I said, okay. And then one night when I was about 9 years old, he said, if we don't work in our world, Santa doesn't come. And I said, he motivated me. He instilled some things into me. We're at a breaking point now where our young people need to watch what we do instead of listening to what we say all the time, because we learn 80% by what we see.
What we see, yes.
And so you have created a platform. This conference is a platform that if you're a business owner, even if you should be there just to network. If you're a business owner, you should be there just to network, to
That's it.
share.
Right.
So by the time we leave that conference, we know for a fact that everything we need, we already have it somewhere in this United States that we can make a phone call. Because in the end, through Buy Black for Life, we're going to create an expanded directory of contacting people. I don't have to do it. Jerome is a lot smarter than I am. I'm just eye candy. But we know that they have the wherewithal to create that network, and we need whatever platform you own, you need to be in Dallas, Texas on September 29th with your handout. This is what I do. This is what we're capable of. This is what's going to motivate us when we all start going live at that conference and saying, look at what we have here.
Yeah.
A nation unto itself that welcomes all. And I'm going to end it with this as far as the conference is concerned. Some people are going to come in, they're going to have a wealth of knowledge, and we want to share it. Because for next year, there's going to be a regional conference, North, Central,
Yes, sir.
Mountain,
Yes,
and
sir.
Pacific. So
Here
there's
we
going to
come.
be ample opportunities, but that black college game between Grambling and Prairie View A&M, those black college bands at halftime, the conference, if you're not here, you're missing. If you've seen Drumline, imagine Drumline with an extreme educational component to it.
Wow.
That's what's going to be in Dallas at the State Fair Classic on that weekend. That's what we're part of, the State Fair Classic. Don't miss it, Dallas,
Amen.
Houston, Austin, Oklahoma City,
Yes.
Shreveport, New Orleans, New York. You need to be there. Denver, Los Angeles, San Diego. We need to be there networking. This conference is so cheap. It's under $100 to get there. Plus, you get tickets into the game and you get to see Ashanti do a concert. And we're going to have food going all the time so you can grab a sandwich and come right back in there and work. It ain't going to be a
Curtis,
$3 billion.
the fire. It's
Woo!
Buy Black for Life family. This is every day with Curtis that we meet with him. This is
Man,
how he is, and I Curtis, I just want to first of all thank you. I know you have a busy schedule. You have a lot going
yes,
on. So to fit me in, and I really do appreciate it. Um, my dear friend said thank you, Jerome and Curtis. She will continue to put in the work. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Amen. Yet I
Amen.
trust that God will water seeds that I plant and that you and others are planting. Amen.
Amen.
And we have, I can't wait to have the opportunity to soak up this knowledge. Great
Mm.
energy in this room. And you haven't seen anything yet. Um, Thank you, my Buy Black for Life family, for joining me, for allowing me to come back to with this platform that may have lit the match, but you spread the fire. All 170,000 of you, 99 countries throughout the world. I will be selfish and just say one more time, we have a Buy Black for Life app.
Yes.
When we started Buy Black for Life, I kept hearing from people that we need to get off the platform that we are on. We have an app. I say download this app, and when you download the app, understand there are very few businesses there because very few have. We have really not pushed it. We're gonna start pushing it. So my thing is, get in while you can now, while it's free.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Get in now while it is free, because it's not going to always be for free, and it's not going to be so few black-owned businesses in this. So if you know someone that has a business, tell them, hey, you need to be here, because what it is that these folks have going on is amazing.
Yes.
Please go to this website, get information about the Moses Project, about the national conference that we have that is coming at the end of September into early October. This brother right here, Curtis Pitts, is a brother that I love, I respect. I cannot wait to be in Dallas, Texas. And I will say again, my Buy Black for Life family, we love you. So much more coming. We are working behind the scenes for amazingness. So I want to thank you. Any last words from you, Mr. Pitts?
Thank you, Brother Hurt, for the Buy Black for Life platform. And if you're not being a part of that app, that's the platform we're going to use for change. And we need to make sure we're getting into this thing while it's free. It's like I was stunned when the brother was sending money back for advertising and marketing. He's giving us a platform for free. And soon it's going to get so big that he's going to need more help. And I'm hoping soon that this thing gets so big that he's not going to work anywhere but for Buy Black for Life across the world and across the United States. We need you, brother, and thank you for motivating me.
Thank you, brother. Thank you all for joining me. And as one of our founding members used to always say, for the love of our people, Buy Black for Life. Good night.
Good night.